welcome back to another episode of Keoni Chats. If this is your first time checking out the show, I say welcome, and all episodes are found on all major podcast platforms and YouTube under Keoni Chats. And then if you want to be in the loop for when new episodes are released, the show can be found on social media under the handles of @KCmedia13 on both Instagram and Twitter, and then Conlu K Media on Facebook. If you are watching on YouTube, you'll see a tag on the lower right-hand corner of the screen for my website, keoniconlu.com, keoniconlu.com. Because when I'm not working on this show, I do have a couple blog series, being the NFL mock drafts, and then also the DC Animated Universe review series. So since my last intro recording, I've got a couple more movies under my belt for the 2022 year. So it's, to my knowledge, I think there's only about 2 movies left for the year. I mean, you could be surprised, it could be more, but either way, I'm going to have a lot of fun watching these movies with a little bit of a critical eye, and then also just writing a quick review on it. So you are here because you're interested to hear about Anthony Holton's story. And to be honest, to categorize this as a surprise would really undersell it, because the last time Anthony Holton and I had a conversation together was probably back in high school. So, at the 2010 was when I graduated. So, 2006, 2010. So probably closer to 2010. So it's been a very long time. And it's actually this is going to be the longest conversation I've had with him. So it was definitely, I didn't know what to expect, because Anthony, he played basketball for my high school and our high school, and he was very successful, and he was one of the guys that everyone gravitated towards. So I just didn't know how I'd, I won't say like handle myself in the interview, but just like I didn't know how open he would get. And then little did I know, as soon as we started recording, as soon as we started talking, it's just all flooded out. And I was so grateful to him for sharing, just because a lot of these things, I don't think he's had this opportunity to share it, not just in a podcast platform, but just have a conversation with someone and just have a conversation that in depth. And maybe he has with his wife, and but I'm very honored that he was comfortable enough to come onto my show, tell his story, and be very comfortable telling a story and not showing any signs of uncomfortability. He seemed to really own it. So. It's definitely one to check out. So if this is your first time checking out the show, follow social media wise, KCmedia13 on both Instagram and Twitter, and then Conlu K Media on Facebook. Leave a review after you've heard or watched this episode. Leave a review, whether it's on a YouTube comment or whether it's on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatnot. It helps me figure out what I'm doing better at, and it helps the show do a little bit better in the rankings. And I know it's a little weird to try to pitch myself and pitch the show, but why not? Why not try this out? So, however you are listening to this podcast, on whichever platform you prefer, or if you are watching on YouTube, I hope you enjoy my chat with Anthony Holton. So leading up to this, there's a few things I want to talk to you about, but the main thing I was just like, I don't think this will be the longest conversation we have ever had.
Yeah.
This is going to be fun, though.
Yeah, I'm excited. It's like weird, yeah, because you remember someone, you know them, but when you think about it, it's like, how much time have we really spent? How deep have we gone? Or
yeah.
Dang, I guess not that much, even though in my mind, I'm like, I remember them. So yeah, it's nice to be able to kind of come back and yeah.
Yeah, and because you played basketball at Sunset, which is, you did basketball, I did football, so we were both athletes. But the one thing I actually do remember the most, I guess the loudest memory I have of you was in Everett's Spanish class. And Mr. Wow. Everett, with I think Albert Jew is in it. So I interviewed him. He goes by Flannel Albert for his music.
Nice.
And then for some reason, we learned the phrase, I think it's like take off your clothes in Spanish, like quitar la ropa. And I just remember we had that class together, but I just remember like you just like saying that phrase over and over again because like this is fun.
That's crazy, man. It's not like it's nice to like have because I don't remember that part at all.
Yeah.
But yeah, you having someone else to sort of like compliment that memory or bring that. Yeah, because yeah, it gives you like a fuller picture. That's hilarious. I didn't remember that.
Yeah. Then because we had like very brief interactions because again both being athletes, but
Yeah.
it's more like
I think we're on the same team, football in 8th grade.
I think so.
I played for 1 year.
And then you're like, I'm done.
Yeah, I was like outside. I can't do it.
Yeah.
Sorry, I cut you off though. Yeah.
No, you're good. But yeah, it's just we always had those moments of like, oh, we're both athletes. We both sort of are in the limelight. You were a more dominant player on the court. I was more of like the special teamers on football. So I was like, hey, we're both repping the same school. But
Yeah.
I always thought like, oh, I think back then also I had a lot of like overthinking and a lot of nervousness. So I was having the same conversation with Anna. I was like, I grew up knowing you, but it's like when we got to high school, I was like, oh, that's Anna. Oh.
Yeah.
Do you ever feel that way when it comes to like, I guess in school, but like just like reconnecting with people?
Yeah.
After long periods of like not reconnecting with them.
Yeah, totally. Cause like I think even for me, and I'm sure we can get into this later, like the whole athlete thing, in a lot of ways for me felt ill-fitting at times. Like people's view of you is one thing, but my experience, what's going on like within your own head or body, like is kind of a different thing. But yeah, like the sort of nervousness or social awkwardness I for sure felt at the time. And so, yeah, there's a lot of people where I'm like, oh, wow, like I'm sure now if we were to have a conversation, it'd be a lot better, a lot different than, at that time you just don't have like the tools or the language or the like confidence to really like be able to connect with someone versus just kind of like acting the way you think you need to act or sort of, it's such a delicate time and a weird time that, yeah, I think anytime I kind of come across somebody from back then, it's nice if there's an opening to be able to like, connect a bit.
I think I classified you and like Nick Newcomb, which also I interviewed a little bit ago, Kevin Corbin, and then like some other people of like, again, it's high school, the cliques. I was like, okay, these guys are like the popular people. They're like the ones that are like everyone gravitated towards. Did you ever think about that as yourself, as like one of those guys and gals and part of that group that like, people are looking at you as you enter a room?
Yeah, that's interesting because like I don't think I ever viewed myself as like popular. Like that seems weird, but I think like for me, because my family moved up here from LA like when I was 9 or 10, and that was like my first taste of being looked at all the time, just in general. Because like, obviously LA being like a more diverse place, like more black and brown kids, that like when I moved here, there was always like anytime like you walk into a room, just like people just watching you. So that for me is how I experienced that. And so by the time, going through middle school and high school, it just felt like an extension of that. I didn't ever associate like a positive thing to that. And then I think I was aware that like, oh yeah, playing sports, being taller or whatever, maybe that's a thing. But I think in a lot of ways, I didn't have the perspective of like, how does this look to other people type of thing. But I never was like, oh yeah, we're like cool kids or any of that stuff. I didn't place a lot of stock in that.
Yeah. And then I remember asking Nick that same question and he was just like, oh, I don't think so. But it's like from, again, someone that does the same, like still athletes with you, can have conversations once in a while with you.
Yeah.
I always saw myself as someone that can like, I think like flourish in other kind of social groups. But when it came to like trying to like keep a conversation with you or keep a conversation with Anna Miller, now Nicole, it's like, oh, why am I stressing out so much about this?
Right. Yeah. That's interesting. Cause like, I'm struggling for like specific names and stuff, but I remember times when, kind of like I said, like a lot of times the like athlete thing felt ill-fitting because I had like just weird different interests. Like I remember I had a phase where I was really into the game Kingdom Hearts, which is like a super nerdy game.
That was a great game.
Yeah. Yeah, and stuff like that. And any chance like in class to like bond with people over that or kind of fall into like a deeper conversation, I always really enjoyed.
Yeah.
You know, and like not just like video game stuff, but just like philosophy and life and just like crazy things. I've always been energized by that stuff.
Yeah.
And so when I'm able to do that, or when I was able to do that, everything else sort of fades away. And I'm like, oh yeah, we're just engaged in this thing, like this sort of image or whatever. Yeah, just it kind of falls away.
I get that.
Yeah.
You get to connect on a new level.
Yeah.
Instead of what you see on the surface, which, again, every movie that has to do with a high school setting is trying to do nowadays. It's like we were kind of doing that on a different level. So it's like I guess at an older level, because obviously these newer movies, they're trying to do things that we've been trying to do for a while.
Yeah. How do you mean like with newer movies and stuff? Like
I'm just thinking of the okay. So there's a movie like Dear Evan Hansen, and I just. I watched that because my partner, she watched the Broadway. So just watching the movie and like seeing this guy trying to like struggle. Obviously there's like more deeper reasons that he struggled connecting with people. But it's like, I know I think, I don't want to say like we were ahead of the time, but it's just in like, you know, the things that they're doing, like in that movie, for example, like trying to connect. I was like, oh, I remember doing that back when I was younger.
Yeah.
So it's like,
that's like a thing I think about because right now I work in like advertising and stuff, and people are always talking about like, oh, like how's this generation different? And a lot of times I feel like there are no fundamental differences. The context is just different, but the same process of like young people coming of age trying to figure it out is like pretty universal.
Yeah.
And so like, yeah, it's kind of a lot, you know, it's a lot to ask of someone who like your world is slowly expanding, you know, because like when you're young, like you pretty much just have your own experience, and then gradually, you know, that circle kind of grows.
Yeah.
And then you're being asked to reckon and deal with like people doing the same thing, and like, how do I fit into you? Like, how do you? I feel like this, but I'm acting like this, and you like. It's such a hectic thing to try to like figure out on the fly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you moved from LA up to here, and just that alone, because just thinking of LA again, I've been like San Diego area, so I've never been to like actual like Los Angeles, the heart of it. So only from what I've seen, it just is a different kind of machine than what Oregon is. How was that adaptation for you?
Yeah, it was in a word, weird. It was just weird. And it's been tricky too, because like when people ask me where I'm from, sometimes I have a hard time answering that, depending on who's asking me. Like, I grew up here, Portland's my home, you know, like all that stuff. But a lot of times I feel like that other part goes missing. I'm like, oh no, but I came from somewhere else too, so I'm from both.
Yeah.
But even like going back as an adult now, I'm like getting to know, you know, like getting to know the city in little like having a bit more free reign to like have a car and drive around and like see stuff on my own terms. Yeah. Because as a kid, you're like, everything seems so big, or like I only saw like my school, the house, like but it was weird. I guess in simple terms, when I think about like early childhood, it's like bright, sunny, multiple neighbors, black or Mexican, you know, like, or like such a mix where this sort of like, I don't know, like a more like template of whiteness wasn't there as much. Yeah. Not to use that language and stuff, but
I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah, I just remember it being like, oh, our neighbors looked like us. We rode our bikes up and down the street. It was bright, sunny, and then we get here and it's like gloomy. Yeah. It's beautiful also, like green, lush, like the peace that I feel like I experience here and grew up with here, I value like none other. But yeah, all of a sudden I'm here and it's just like gloomy. Instead of like an equal mix in a class, there's like one or two people who look like me, maybe five in the whole school. Everyone's looking at just this weird like shift. So that was like, I guess what the like move felt like.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways, where like before I could kind of blend in and just sort of, I'm a pretty like laid back person too, like very type B personality, you know, and here having eyes on you and all this stuff forces you to be on a bit more. And that was exhausting to me, I think. So yeah, lots of things in the move and the change, but those are kind of like the main like high level things when I think about it or reflect on it now.
Yeah. So let's say it's a day of school, and then you're putting on this facade because more people are looking at you. Did you ever feel like it was tensing up in your chest? Do you just feel like your muscles were tense and you're just like you didn't know how to like relax? But then when you get home, what is the first thing you do? Like how do you what's the first I guess I want to say like act that you do to decompress from a day of just trying to put on something else that's not really you?
That's a good question.
This degree comes in handy, once in a while.
Would you?
Journalism and communications.
Oh yeah. I'm like, good question. I mean, most times, like, yeah, I'd have like practice or something, but when I finally, which actually is good for like relieving stress and stuff, which I never looked at it like that while it was happening, but in hindsight, like you're able to sort of like work out a lot of jitters or pent up anxiousness. But yeah, when I get home, it's like decompression, like kind of vegging out a lot of times, like playing video games or like, yeah, I think as I got older, more of that was like journaling or, like going for a walk or like more of those things. When I was younger, it was like, how quickly can I turn on the TV?
Right.
Or like video games or something that doesn't
require brain power.
Yeah, or that I can participate in or be in control of versus always being on the back foot in my regular life of having to deal with what's being thrown at me. I get to sort of like, yeah, like that's why video games I feel like are good because it's not as passive as watching TV and you can like sort of pick it up and put it down. So just stuff like that. And then, yeah, like I said, as I got older, more like kind of introspective things of like just sitting and like doing breathing exercises and like journaling, like really like, I don't know. It seems very like, ooh, but it was, I don't know. Those were the things that like brought me peace, I feel like. And just, yeah, feeling like kind of like a non-participant in the world for a bit.
Yeah.
That like, all right, all of this like song and dance, because I'm kind of rambling now, but like a lot of like what bugged me, especially when I was younger, was it felt like everybody was acting all the time. Like I would notice like, and I noticed this too, like my first years at like Cedar Park, first year or two at Cedar Park, just being like, by looking at this person, I can tell like kind of how they're feeling a little bit. But when these other people come around, they start acting a different way. And I don't understand why, and it would just bug me. And I don't know why I couldn't just like ignore it, but I would just be like, the thing I thought was like, nobody is doing what they actually want to do. Like everyone is sort of like looking at one another and just kind of like trying to keep up this thing.
Yeah.
And it just bugged me. So that like, I feel like a lot of my like stress or anxiousness was like always trying to pay attention to these things and always be thinking about these things and not being able to kind of turn that off.
Now, was that something you kind of picked up when you jumped here, or was that something you kind of felt like you were developing back in LA and then it kind of blossomed when you got here?
Yeah, it's hard to tell because like when I moved here, I was still, like 9 or 10. So
true.
I don't know how much of that was just like age or this place specifically, but in my mind, they've kind of like merged into one to where like the day I arrived, all of a sudden I started thinking about this stuff. But yeah, probably a mix because you're going into like preteen, teen phase, and you're also in this radically new environment. So I think both probably added to that.
I mean, and also, again, 9, 10, that's still pretty young, but still, it's your childhood home, or it's your childhood school, or
Yeah.
all these other things that you did start to establish into yourself is just getting uprooted, and all that's just now like
Yeah.
now far away south.
Yeah. I remember one thing that like would make me sad a lot, cuz like the first school I went to when I moved here was Holy Redeemer. So like we lived in Peter Court,
Mm-hmm.
but my dad was coaching in North Portland, and we went to school out there. And cuz they thought I think it would be more like diverse and an easier transition.
Yeah.
Um and then going to West TV, West Holland View, and then Cedar Park.
Yeah.
Um I just lost my train of thought.
Because you're the things you grew up with is now you have to recreate
Oh, yeah, yeah.
all that.
Yeah,
because
and
you moved somewhere new.
one of the things that I remember would make me sad was everybody knew each other, and everybody would like grew up in the same house, went to the same schools, and had these relationships. And I was like, I don't have that.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
and I'm sure a lot of people have felt this if they moved when they were young. Of like, everyone's already closer, and I'm on the outs, and I'm trying to like play catch up, and you kind of know, and I'm Kia because I don't know like if you grew up here like or
Yep.
okay.
River. Yep. Yeah.
You have the sense that you're never going to be able to catch up. Like they have a level of closeness that I won't have. So I'm sort of like permanently on the outs. And I think that like I'm very like introverted, but I think that like played into it too of like, I can't trust or be fully comfortable in the world. So I'm going to like cultivate in like an inner world kind of that is like where I spend most of my time.
I grew up here, and then there was, I think it was my junior year of high school, where my mom gave me the, I guess, idea of just like, what if you spent your junior year of high school in Hawaii? It's like, what would you think of that? And I was like, part of me was like, oh yeah, it would be cool to be in somewhere dry and warm
Yeah.
for like a year. But then, just hearing you talk, I'm just thinking like, yeah, I would be very out of place. I wouldn't know how to connect with people. I wouldn't even know how to speak their language, because I feel like they would, they have pigeon talk over there in Hawaii, and plus they have different phrases and whatnot. So it's like, I would be pretty much just like a fish on dry land. It's like, what is going on here?
Yeah. So you turned that down?
Yeah, I think my dad also was just like, no. I was like, that's good. All right.
That's an interesting thing though, that she even like thought to like pose that or offer that.
I think at that point, I think my parents, they split, but I think she was just kind of like, I think she was also thinking maybe just doing like a fresh start, or just like a break from everyday life for a little bit. But I don't know. Honestly, I also don't know if she's ever thought all the way through. I'm pretty sure it's just like, what if we did a year in Hawaii? Did she get to be? We have family there too, so I think she just wanted to reconnect for a little bit. But yeah, shut that down quickly.
Yeah.
Okay, so just trying to connect before you started doing sports and video games at that time. Kingdom Hearts wasn't a thing yet. So what was it like for you trying to connect with other people? Like, let's use James Arthur, former guest of the show. Let's use him as an example. How did you connect with him when you got to school and you're just trying to like find your way?
How did he and I connect?
Yeah.
Oh, how exactly did this happen?
I can pick on people that's been on this show. I'll do that all day long.
Yeah, that's helpful. I'm like, you've interviewed everyone. I feel like, because for me it was like James, Chris, EJ, Martell. I viewed them as like a group.
Yeah.
And I think they all like grew up around each other and like went to Meadow Park, I think. And I'm not sure, I think maybe through basketball.
Oh, it's true. Yeah.
Yeah, that like our circles kind of came together. So yeah, and I felt like, and I don't think I've ever told them this, but like that group of people who like I catch up with from time to time. Like I saw them recently. They just had such a like liveliness to them. Like individually, their personalities, like you know, they're very special people. They're probably, but like together, they're just like, there was a sense of like, just like funny
camaraderie.
Yeah, camaraderie and just like hilariousness.
Yeah.
So I view that as like they're just like a unit kind of thing. And then I think over time, like our individual relationships like built here or there, but that was sort of like my view of them at the time.
Yeah, because when I talked with EJ, and that was a question I asked him. I was like, okay, so I see most recently you were at, let's say, James's wedding, and I see photos of sporadically of you with him and him or you with Martell or this or that and this.
Yeah.
I was like, how did you do that? Because to keep a relationship or friendship since middle school all the way into like, you know, we're 30s now.
Yeah.
Which it's like, that just sounds like flabbergasting.
Yeah. I'm like admittedly terrible at like maintaining relationships. So like especially now, the opportunities around like a wedding or something that does bring us together, I'm really thankful for. Cause like I do a very bad job of like staying current with people, which I need to work on.
But it's just hard though also because, you know, you work in marketing, and I assume that's going to take most of your day. And then, you know, you do want to decompress. You do want to like kind of shut the world out for a little bit. And the next thing you know, it's like 8:00 at night. And you're like, well, this is just weird to start a conversation this late.
Yeah, maybe. And then just like phase of life thing, like married, like all that stuff.
Yeah.
But for some reason, I've still always felt guilty about it because like, I think I have a difficulty like relating to people. So like I can feel very like strongly like, oh man, like care about you. One of my like good friends from way back, even like friends who I'm, you know, really close with. I've always just had like a weird block that how I feel about someone doesn't translate to like how I show it, you know? And I've always felt bad about that. It's like a very frustrating thing for me.
Yeah.
That I'm working on, but yeah, it's just always been tough.
Are you seeing a therapist at all?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I am too. Okay.
Okay.
I got the
There you
sense
go.
of like, you know, anxiety is kind of there because I remember when I first initiated the conversation, I was like, oh, I want to do something, but my brain just makes my body whole freeze.
Yeah.
And it's like trying to describe it. And then I had the first appointment with him. He's like, what the heck do you mean here? And I was like, I know, I want to like, I always use the example of like, oh, I'm a happily taken man, but it's like, oh, I see a pretty girl at the bar and I want to go talk to her. But then I think of like, what happens if she like rejects me? What happens if it goes well?
Right.
And then before I ran through his avenues, like I'm still standing in the same spot.
Yeah.
So is that something that is that about the same realm where like you think that it's been too much time and then you're like, I don't know if they want to talk to me more.
Yeah. Partially that. And then I don't know how much of this is like how boys or men are conditioned that you need a reason to connect with someone. Like it's like the old trope of like why dads throw the football with their son because like they're doing an activity that makes intimacy or connection easier. Same thing of like what's an excuse to talk to this person?
Yes.
Versus just be like, hey, I was thinking about you.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
So yeah, some of that.
Yeah.
And then for me, like with in therapy and stuff, like more so just being more in touch with this sounds so like being more in touch with my feelings. And like, cause to me, a lot of times it feels like a weird, cloudy blob that I know what it feels like in my body, but I can't wrap a story around it.
Okay.
And so that's where I get like just very like flustered and just like, I don't, you know, like the words aren't there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so part of like therapy and stuff for me or the work that I've done has been around like one, slowing down a bit and like accepting who I am and how I am. Like I remember, I won't get into it, but like even the whole like, oh, you're more of like a type B personality. That's very hard for me to hear for whatever reason. Because I'm like, we live in a world that rewards like go-getters and like confidence and like
entrepreneurship is a big thing.
Yeah.
People like starting their own businesses and it's like cool, but it's like this is not my realm.
Yeah, and being able to say like, hey, that's too much for me. Like I feel like I'm most valuable not always like taking the lead, but kind of sitting back and like observing things, seeing what's going on. And then if I feel like I can contribute, or I feel like there's something I want to say or do, then like I can step up and do that. But I'm not constantly fighting for, that like, hey, I'm here.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. So yeah, just a lot of that stuff.
Okay. Keoni Chats is proudly sponsored by Adelsheim Vineyards. Adelsheim is a winery based out of the Pacific Northwest since 1971. Founders David and Ginny Adelsheim opened up the vineyard with the goal to create world-class wine out of the Chehalem Mountains. Adelsheim has worked with companies like Growing Garden, One Barrel, the Portland Trail Blazers, and now the Keoni Chats podcast show. I can't say thank you enough to all the folks at the Adelsheim Vineyards for giving this little podcast a chance and giving all the fans of this little podcast a good reason to try some of your wine. Not that it's not good, but it helps when it's a little lighter impact in the wallet. So if you would like to try some of Adelsheim's wine, go to ADELSHEIM and then click the shop button in the right hand corner and then browse around, create a cart. You maybe get some Pinot Noir, get some Chardonnay, get some Rosé. And then before you check out, use the discount code Grand Cru. That's GRANDCRU. Grand Cru is a very popular word in the wine community. So if you are curious what it means, give it a quick Google check. And, when you apply that discount code, you'll get 20% off your total purchase. That is amazing. I just can't say thank you enough to Emily McMullen, who helped give the show a chance and provided that opportunity for us and for you. And so you must be 21 years and over to purchase any alcohol from Adelsheim. But if you like to use that discount code for some merchandise, I say go for it. And everyone, please enjoy responsibly. Okay. Yeah, it's you just what people know about you from the outside. They're like, okay, Anthony, he's a former athlete from high school. He must love the limelight. He must love the attention. He must love to be, spotlight or front center. But it's like, I think the whole mindset that, from men and boys of just like, I need to, be the go-getter. I need to bring home the bacon or something.
Yeah.
So it's, I think also, with your dad's former career, it does make it a little difficult to endure, because your dad is, there's no secret. Your last name's Holton. Your dad's Michael Holton. He can be seen on, was it Blazers halftime show? So it's, I imagine with him playing back in the early times, they pretty much said rub dirt on it and move on. Would that be about the correct way that you were maybe raised as well, or how was it being the son of a former NBA player?
Yeah, I think as far as like my dad specifically, like he's a good dad. Mm-hmm. Like I can't remember times where like crazy, him saying anything wild like that. But I think generationally, I think now like talking about like therapy or vulnerability, particularly for men, is a lot more accepted. Yeah. Whereas before, like I feel like was more of a out of sight, out of mind. Sure. Like just kind of deal with it. So while I can't remember like specific examples of that, I'm sure, that was kind of part of the background. Really enough, more so coaches that I remember telling me things. Like I went to junior college in Texas right out of high school, and I got hurt. I like tore my ACL. And I remember driving back from the appointment, like with the doctor who told me, you tore your ACL, you're going to be out, whatever. And I was like starting to get emotional a little bit, and I was trying to hold it in. We were in a van. This was like our school was like 45 minutes north of Dallas. So we were driving back up there, and I was like starting to get emotional. And I just remember him telling me, he was like, we don't have time for tears. or whatever.
Okay.
And now it sounds like a silly thing, but I remember at the time just being like, okay,
Yeah.
like you can't, like toughness or strength looks like just sort of like basically repressing that.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm like very not healthy. But it's a mixed bag, like, because there are times when you need to be able to like push through an emotion, but something like that, yeah. So, like with my dad and stuff, I think there's a lot of attention brought on by that, but I think he did a good job.
My dad passed away like early April. So
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you. But I just remember I had conflicts with his style of parenting when it came to like praises, because you had to like really do something extraordinary to get his like, oh, good job. And as he was kind of in the process of passing on, my mom and his I guess now my stepmom, they were just like, he always had a very hard time giving praise because that's just how he grew up.
Right. Yeah.
It's like he would say he's proud of you, but I guess so. My brother started this thing where you made like birthday videos. So it was like, oh, different people saying happy birthday, throw it together. And the stepmom, she was like, anytime they came to recording like yours or we came to recording your brother's, we had to do like 4 or 5 takes. It's like he didn't know what to say. So It's like part of me is like, oh. And I guess now in hindsight, I'm like, I have to remind myself like not everyone is working on communication like we are right now.
Yeah.
It's like I gotta be okay with some people not there yet.
Yeah. Yeah, that stuff is it's tough because I think now, and a lot of times, like understandably so, there's a lot of like scrutiny on men.
Sure. Yeah.
And yeah, like I said, some warranted, but I think it's interesting to think about how someone was raised or taught that, like, as a young boy having the same, emotions or whatever as girls, but anytime you show that like weakness or vulnerability, you have an older man sort of like disciplining you for that.
Yeah.
Or like kind of like not punishing, but like being like, what are you doing, and correcting you. Mm-hmm. So then you associate that emotion with like need to, like that's bad. Mm-hmm. And over time, like you just don't, that way of dealing with things or expressing things just kind of like wanes and gets weaker.
Yeah.
So by the time they're older, it's like, oh, it makes sense. Like you're able to have a lot of empathy for, like someone like your dad or anyone who isn't, that muscle isn't as strong.
Yeah.
Not to say that like we shouldn't like go back and try to like work on those things, but it can be a lot to ask of someone to change overnight.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Which, in your head, you're like, I'm making strides. I'm doing something right?
Yeah.
It's gonna be little like baby steps, 1% better. So yeah, when it came to like even talking with my dad, it came to a lot of like, it had to be like technology or sports related. So it's like, I didn't know too much about tech though. It was more my brother's realm. Sports, I kind of knew. And then he gave me some suggestions when it came to the podcast. He was like, you should talk to former Sunset people and you should do a little series. You're actually like the most recent one because, I kind of dived into it without even thinking about it. But for you in basketball, because obviously that was your dad's sport as a career. And during your last year at Grayson College, how were you thinking? How were you feeling? Did you think, obviously you didn't know that ACL was going to get torn, but it's like, were you still in love with the sport when you got to Grayson? Because Sunset, obviously it's its own thing, but then it's like that college is like that's another level.
Yeah, it was interesting because like the school at Grayson, that's a junior college, so it's treated as like a stepping stone to try to get to D1 or something.
Yeah.
I loved it. Like it was like in the middle of nowhere. There was like just a Walmart, and that was pretty much it. Like. But I remember I got hurt. I had to sit out that season, but I was around like my teammates and these other like young men who came from all different corners of the country. And it was like my first time like being on my own.
Sure. Yeah.
Into the whole like, you know, father's legacy thing. My first chance to sort of like establish myself independent of all that. Like nobody knows anything about who I am, or like, not that it matters, but like
Anthony Holton who? Michael Holton who?
But I love that it was like getting to start over and sort of like build something of my own, as weird as it sounds. So I sat out that year, and when it was time, I was home for the summer, I got a call from my coach, and he was like, hey, they're cutting men's and women's basketball from the athletic program.
Damn.
So like I'm out of a job, and also like I'm gonna help y'all find new schools and stuff. We're gonna get through it. So I was like, what now? And so working through that of like, do I go to another junior college in Texas? And it was weird because then when Concordia came along, so Jeff Christensen, who used to be an assistant coach at Sunset, was now at Concordia.
Oh.
And I was like reffing a summer league Sunset game or something.
Yeah.
And he was there, and he was like, oh, so what's going on? I was like, actually, I just found out like I don't have a school anymore. And he was like, what? So then he kind of scrambled and you know, tried to make that happen. And I remember like fighting it though. Like even in talking about it with my dad, and it was tough because I was like, I want to go back out there. Like out there is where like the growth is. Like out there is my own, you know, this is mine type of thing. And I remember he wanted me to like go to Concordia because it was closer to home. And there's actually like a weird, like I didn't expect like soft spot in there, you know, that like, yeah, he, you know, wanted to be closer, but I was just like, no, that feels like failure to me. I need to be, you know. And so we had like a lot of like good and heated conversations about it. And eventually, like, because I was coming off the injury, a lot of those junior colleges, like, we didn't have an athletic trainer. We borrowed one from a school. So it's not the best place to, like, recover and, like, have the resources and stuff. So Concordia ended up being, like, the best situation. But I remember fighting that after that year because it meant so much to me.
Do you have a hard time asking for help?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm noticing that, too, by myself. It's like, you know, I had a therapy appointment like the Thursday, the same week of my dad passing. And then I was like, I did like a quick 5-minute virtual session. I was like, hey, just want to give you an update. I also didn't want to get charged like $75 for missing the appointment. So dad just passed away. He's like, oh, Keoni, I'm so sorry. Did you want to have an appointment? So he's like basically giving me all these options to like have a follow-up appointment sooner rather than later. I was like, no, I should be fine. No, I'm good. And then he's like, why do you have such a hard time? I'm like, I don't know, man.
Oh, my gosh.
But, yeah, so when it came to, you know, just going to the trainers or just talking to your dad, like talking on a plan, and just, you know, saying the word, like, I have a hard time saying the word, I don't know. I don't know what I do. I don't know how to do this, blah, blah, blah. You know, how do you handle saying maybe I don't know or what do I do now? Just asking that question that leads to unknown path.
Yeah. I think for me, like the I don't know part is a bit easier. The thing that I recognize in myself that I fight back against is people, what I perceive as steamrolling or stepping into like, I have this very like, I want to be independent thing, which we used to joke about was like a baby of the family thing, because I'm the baby of the family, of like, let me do it. Like, let me figure it out. Yeah. So in the I don't know, that a lot of times creates an opportunity for people to be like, well, let's what if you just did this? Or let's just do this. And I hate that. So that's more so where, you know, the thing is of like, this isn't my life anymore. If other people are like, interfering. Now I see it as like, you know, having been a bit older, like everyone needs help and like loving guidance and stuff. So I've kind of shaken the like, I want to be a man, like I want to do it on my own type thing.
Yeah, I've found out that I do really enjoy like teaching and like helping someone grow, and having to like do a process over and over again. It's been ingrained in my brain how to do these things, and then being like, oh, it's weird. I'm passing this on to someone else, and then helping them get caught up, and then trying not to like think like, are they screwing this up? Are they? Do I need to step in? Do I need to micromanage? And just realizing, okay, if they do something wrong, they have their own manager to talk to them about, or they'll come to me.
Yeah.
So it's. Have you found yourself enjoying that? Because you're not playing basketball now, as a career. You're not in the NBA, unfortunately. I know. I'm sorry, man.
No, no.
So have you thought about maybe this is something you can teach to someone else when it comes to using the basketball as an example? Have you thought about anything like that? I know you're a married man. Something on the line of if you're thinking of kids, I'm gonna let you have a conversation with your wife. But
yeah,
I'm trying to imagine like you as like a basketball coach for like a little league or something like that.
Not like readily. It's not been something I've like desperately wanted. Kind of. I think maybe if there's a season that makes sense to, step back into that. But when like basketball dreams died, it was like both sad to let go of, but also a relief in a lot of weird ways. Like I remember me and my brother ended up graduating college the same year because he had gone to a prep school back east in Vermont or in Massachusetts right out of high school. I went to a junior college and then he got hurt. So you get like an extra year when you get hurt.
Yep.
So it just worked out that we graduated at the same time. And we were both trying to play overseas or whatever. And we both went to these things that are called like exposure camps where you go to play. He went to one in Vegas. I think I went to one in LA where you play like with a bunch of other players in front of like coaches or potential agents and stuff. And then from there you can like get an agent and they can help you find a team. And like right after that I got hurt again. I tore my ACL a second time.
Oh.
And so like, and he killed it at his and he was able to like get launched and stuff. And I remember being like both happy for him and also sad and like envious in a way. And it was weird because I was like, no, this is like a great moment. Why do I feel this way? But because for me, and I remember having a conversation with my dad, like it was that thing dying. And I always knew that like I had, more stuff that I was into and like interests and like hobbies and just weird stuff that I wanted to like lean into. So I was being free to do that now. But at the same time, it was like, but this is the thing that I thought would give me the like worth and purpose to,
Yeah.
So it was kind of a weird thing, but it ended up being a positive.
Okay. Now, your brother, I know he also played for Sunset.
Yeah.
What is he doing now? Is he still playing overseas, or
Yeah.
is he just nice? Where's he playing
He's still playing. He was in Cyprus this year.
Okay.
Which is in kind of by Greece.
Wow.
But he's bounced around a lot. He was in Israel, I think the year before that, and then in France the year before that. He met his wife out there. She's from Austria. Like, yeah. So I'm really happy for him. Yeah.
Yeah. What has it been like to try to keep that brothership connection still going, even though he's in amazingly different time zones and days?
Yeah. It's funny because like a lot of it too, because he went to school back east. And so my senior year at Sunset was the first time I didn't have him. And so that year was very significant for me in figuring out like, oh, who am I? Because before that I was like very attached at the hip with him.
Oh, yeah.
And like,
I was the same way too with my brother.
Yeah. Was your brother older or younger?
He's older, so our freshman year was his senior year.
Okay.
So I had 3 years of just me, but still like that. I think it was my it's like 8th grade year / freshman year. My brother's presence were still pretty much felt at Cedar Park and Sunset.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, like similar thing. But the kind of what I was talking about, like hard to maintain relationships, like, but when we do catch up, it's like making up for lost time, and you kind of jump in where you started. That's how me and him, our thing is. For a while, we had like a running group text with me, him, and another close friend of ours, which was fun. We just sent each other like funny memes or, you know, stuff like that. But now, yeah, we'll have like FaceTimes to catch up, text here or there when we can. But it is more like sporadic versus we're not the type to be like, I'm calling you every day.
Yeah.
Or, you know, that type of thing. So.
Yeah, my brother and I, we lived together for about a year and a half, and then he's in Hillsborough. I'm here, but it's also like, it's one thing to like have to drive 20 minutes, but to like have to coordinate, be like, okay, so I'm about to go to bed, but you're about to wake up. I can do like 30 minutes here or there. That's gotta be exhausting.
Yeah, it's impossible. That's why like texts are good. Things that like aren't, you know, like dependent on scheduling. And then just sporadic, like FaceTimes, you might catch them, in the morning or something. But yeah, it forces you to be kind of more, loose with that.
Okay. And so basketball is the chapter on that one. The book is closed on basketball. Then marketing, how did that come into the picture for you?
Yeah, that was actually born at Sunset, weirdly enough. So I always had like an interest in like kind of what I was saying, like what I noticed when I first got to Cedar Park and stuff, like, why does everyone act this way? Like, people are doing things they don't want to do or saying things they don't want to say, like just how people work. And like, I guess, is that sociology, like, or whatever?
Psychology.
Okay, psychology. Because at my first year at Grayson, I thought I wanted to major in sociology of like how people and groups relate and stuff like that, or like anthropology, that type of thing.
Yeah.
So I had that like background interest, and then when I was at Sunset, my freshman year, I got put into Mr. Bell's marketing class.
I remember that. I remember him. I took that class too, but we weren't in the same class, but I remember him in that class.
Yeah, so I got put into it as a freshman, which I guess wasn't supposed to happen. Like it was like a mistake. And because I remember I asked to get taken out because I was in there basically with my brother's friends. I didn't have my own friends, and I was just like the young one. I felt like lonely. And my mom was like, you're not getting out of that class. You're going to stay. And I was just like, okay. So props to mom. So from there, I was like, got a good foundation. And then Mrs. Taylor's class.
Yes, I remember her too.
Was like, I need to like, I've been meaning to like reconnect with her or shoot her a note or something. Cause like, it was awesome. Like I remember she had like a blog that had like current campaigns and stuff. And she just pulled it up on the projector. We'd like go through it. And seeing that like mix of like something adding to culture in an interesting way with like business, I was just like, that's cool. Like that'd be nice to like do one day. And then I remember being familiar obviously with like Nike ads and like
yeah, they sponsored the school, so
yeah, and then like Old Spice stuff, all that like memorable work. And I think around that time it was like, who does this? And it was like, oh, there's actually a place here in Portland. Like Wyden and Kennedy that does it. And I was like, oh, if I were to like not play basketball, like, or be in marketing, that'd be like an awesome, you know, like dream place to be. And so like fast forward through like leaving Sunset, you know, Grayson, come back to Concordia. I was in like a marketing class, actually a finance class, like sports finance class at Concordia. One of my professors like had a connection to Wyden and Kennedy and was like, because I made every like presentation about like marketing, even if it wasn't like supposed to be.
Some way you twisted it.
Yeah.
I like it.
I was like, and this is so then I got connected through that and ended up at Wyden. So I was like, that's kind of how, but it was born, like out of that interest and then out of Sunset and those classes and yeah.
Okay. So my my previous workplace, we did some work with White and Kennedy.
Oh, awesome.
I think, I can't remember the project off the top of my head, but yeah, I just remember making friends with someone from there and kind of being like, you know, just in case. I never really got into marketing. I think that was something I dabbled in. Like, you know, basically running the social media accounts. That was my marketing right there. Right. So, but I know of some of their work, and I've seen, I think their website at least, and saw their like how it looks, the building. It looks pretty nice. It looks pretty good. Yeah,
it's a cool space, cool building in there for sure. A lot of like interesting people. I we do a lot of different things too. Like to your point, like there's a lot within marketing, you know, and like within advertising even, like a variety of different avenues and like skill sets and stuff. So
Yeah.
but yeah, I've enjoyed it.
How has it been trying to figure out the marketing world as an adult in an actual adult? I call it an adult job where it's 8 to 5 Monday through Friday. And it's
Yeah.
like you're spending all your days there instead of like in college or you have a part time job and you're
Yeah.
just like a couple hours here or there. But yeah, what was it like trying to navigate that world?
It was fun, like eye-opening, hard at times, because like I didn't know I was like, this is the building where you guys make the ads and stuff, right? But
That's all there is. It's just it keeps like a machine just pumping out.
yeah, I just thought that
ads.
like everything happens in this one building. There's like one person who sits there and like just makes a thing, but it's a whole different world. So I got in first through like in like what they call media, which is like planning and buying like media space and stuff, which is more on the executional side of things. And I started as an intern and just learning basically, and eventually ended up in like brand strategy, which is like where I'm now, which I love. So it's just eye opening. Like there's something nice about like having a stable, like I'm on the ground floor still, but like I can see some runway here, and like there's a ton to learn. Like it's never boring. So yeah, that part's nice. And then being on my own, like moving out after graduation and stuff, having my own apartment, ended up working crazy hours sometimes, but the sense of like this is mine to build was what kind of fueled it, because I felt really good.
Nice. Yeah. And, we were talking before we started recording how like the job I have now helped pay for all the tech we used to have this conversation and have it re-recorded. I assume Wyatt and Kenny helped, not like directly pay, but, it helped fund the house that you bought back in just buying a house in general and becoming a homeowner. That's just alone. Like in Portland where like everything is starting to
That's crazy.
climb up. That's also, I mean, again, in your early 30s, so it's like, dude, life is starting to happen now.
Yeah, it's crazy too, because like also I think in an indirect way, COVID's responsible for us having a home, because the help that we got, well, not being able to have like a big wedding or whatever, like because of the restrictions, like forced it to be a bit more intimate and small.
Yeah.
And so the help, from family that would have like led to that, we were able to put towards a house. So that also was like a huge, because it's like a weird thing, man. Like we put an offer in on a house and had like 14 offers or something.
Yeah.
Like just, it's like crazy. So we were able to find one that had been kind of sitting for a while. But yeah, like having a career or, some years at something, and then that help, because again, like on our own, like we would not have been able to do that. So yeah, man, but yeah, it's a whole different, very eye-opening. There's times when like I wish we could just rent again, like, and not have to deal with all the things that are wrong or need to be fixed or all that stuff.
You can't call a maintenance person and be like, my sink's backing up.
Yeah, no, all of a sudden it's like Google a plumber that can come in 24 hours and not be, not be too expensive. Like it's just a lot more daunting.
Yeah, so I'm at this point. I think you are actually going to be my last interview in this setup because, my partner and I were looking to move.
Oh, nice.
And it's been, the field of homes that are renting were very low. We saw one early on in the process, but it was like it was way too early before we can even talk to anyone. But we were just like fantasizing about like, this could be a house we could like, move into, do the rent to buy, and then next thing you know, it's like we have a family going on.
Right.
But then it's like it's gone. It's like
yeah. But that was something too, like before we were like anywhere close to being ready, we just started going to like open houses and stuff. And then they always ask you like, oh, so you I'm like, no, nah, we're just doing research.
Yeah.
To be able to start that, that process of dreaming and trying to see how, that's super important.
Yeah, and then so we kind of both settled on the idea of like, okay, we're just gonna rent an apartment for like at least a year,
Yeah.
check it out, and then if we like it, anything that like stands out. But I think her and I are both at that phase where like, yeah, we're ready to like be in a home and stop moving.
Mm.
So it's, I mean, for you to find that, just like someday, man, I'll get there.
It's a weird thing. You looking like around here or just kind of all over?
I think, somewhere, people that listen to this show in Australia, they're not going to know this.
Oh,
but
yeah,
just
I'm
like,
sorry.
people like, let's say it's going to be more in the neighborhood and between like Murray and I think TV Highway, kind of that kind of quadrant,
Yeah.
stretching all the way down to like over here, Shoals Ferry.
Yeah.
Just because like that neighborhood's like we're finding the medium ground because that was kind of my big thing. It's like I don't want to be too close to my work and have you drive
Right.
an extra. I don't want to be too close to your work and you drive extra. Plus she hates her work, so it's like
Yeah.
sorry people that listen to this.
No, all good. But all that syncing and all that planning is like,
Yeah,
a whole
it's
other thing.
exhausting. So when you found this one, what was it about it that spoke to you?
I think because we had gone to like open houses and stuff and like actually step foot in, because pictures like
That's one thing.
yeah, I've learned like pictures lie a lot.
Yeah.
So I think we settled on like what type of floor plan would work for like what we needed now and all that stuff. And there was one close to this one, the one that we we didn't get, that we were like, oh, this is like newly updated, like all this stuff. We didn't get it, but this one like had been sitting for a while, and I think when we stepped in it, we were like, this floor, this works, this could work for us, and it was like we're gonna have to like, put in some work and fix stuff, but like this could work for us. That was like the moment of like, all right, like cool, let's try to make this happen, like but yeah, it was just like being able to picture like what life could look like here.
Nice. Well, also belated congratulations on the marriage.
Oh, thanks.
So I mean,
Thanks.
2020 was when you guys got married, which it was hopefully it was a warm day on the beach.
It was, which I was like panicking about.
Yeah,
Because we had like several places, like venues that like we thought we were going to have it at, and then they couldn't accommodate us because like COVID restrictions were like, you can have 20 people or like 10 people.
Yeah,
We're like,
yeah.
what? So we bounced around, we were scrambling, and then, my wife, to her credit, was like, I want to do it on the beach or whatever. And I was like, but the beach is always cold and windy, and what if
this
it rains?
ain't LA Beach.
Yeah. And all that stuff that we had are like, yeah. But it ended up being like the most perfect day I've ever seen at the beach. Like,
Nice.
it was like mid to high 70s,
Yeah.
not a cloud in the sky. Like, I was just like shocked. And we had like a backup plan, like the place that we did it at,
Yeah.
where it was like covered, but ended up being like perfect. So I was like, wow. Like, look at God. Look at this. This is wild.
And then I mean, it's also very windy. So I'm wondering, like, how did you factor in for that?
Well, like I said, that was one of the things I was panicking about, but it ended up being like, it wasn't that windy. It was like, I might be like,
You're catching a very rare time, man.
I know this might be some like revisionist history here, but even like, when I look at like pictures and stuff, it wasn't like, it was a very still day compared to like what it's usually like, which was, crazy. So.
And if people find you on Instagram, which I'll put your handle at the description, they'll see that you also had hair.
I did, yeah. I did. Until recently, yeah. I'd grown it out over a couple years before the pandemic, but then over the pandemic, just kind of letting it go. So, but yeah, I had to start over, drop the top. I got tired of it.
I assume maintenance probably was also kind of just tiring because for the longest time, I've known you as either, very close shaved head, maybe like a 0 or something like that. You still had hair at the top, but when I saw the photos, I was like, dude, you grew it out, man. And then you also, I think you had braids also, or just your...
Yeah, I did. Yeah. So it was like, I went back and forth between having it braided or out, but yeah, I just was like, part of it was like coming out. So I think it was like, the start of this year where it was like, all right, I think like for the most part, pandemic stuff's behind us, gonna start getting out of the world again. I was like, let's just fresh start. Like, let's just,
Yeah. I think a lot of people, there's one guy in particular I'm thinking of. He does dragon boats, and I did dragon boats with him. That's how I met him, and also he's a family friend. But the first time I saw him in the pandemic, I guess, previously he was like a clean shaven guy, former in the military, obviously balding, so he always wore a hat. The first time I saw him, beard like this long, like down to like, I guess, bottom of the chest.
Yeah.
And it's like, dude, oh my God. And then now, let's say, fast forward to early April, and he still has the same beard. I was like, you can trim that, right?
You can cut that now, right?
You're good. Your statement has been made.
It's a weird thing though, because like I feel like with all, obviously there's no shortage of like pandemic takes, but it's interesting how people change their appearance based on not being in social environments for like a long time.
Yeah.
Like what they defaulted to or what they tried or is interesting.
Yeah. So one of the last things I want to ask you is that Anthony Holton, that you were basketball star at Sunset High School. You played basketball at 2 different colleges, and then now you're a marketing guru, or you're working your way to a marketing guru. Creating yourself, that was something you also in our talks leading up to here, creating your own identity, that's important to you. So as your first podcast episode is wrapping up, who are you? Who is Anthony Holton?
Oh wow,
I got to end it with a bang.
I know, that's such a tough question. I guess, yeah, I don't know how to put it into words. I don't know. I'm just a person trying to figure it out. Like I've been going through a lot of changes recently in life, like just growing, getting older, and so my ideas of who I was when I was younger have all been challenged by like, oh yeah, now so I'm still, I don't know, I'm still trying to figure it out. Like I find it important to not latch onto any kind of like outward label of who I am, like to even be like, oh, I'm a basketball player, like that can very easily die. Like, oh, like I'm a marketing, like, well, that could very easily die. So like beneath all that, I don't know. I'm just trying to, stay the course.
Still figuring it out.
Yeah, I'm trying to like, I have like, I think everyone does like a gut level sense of like maybe what I have to offer the world or the people who I love, but what that is, I don't know yet.
Yeah, and I think this conversation we're having, it's like it did show me a lot about you, that even with social media dives, also with
which I try not to be on,
which you try not to be on, but just even trying to get some sort of like idea of some things that we could talk about. I think this conversation, it was nothing of what I expected. Just the fact that this was everything that was just like, going to therapy, you figuring out how to like channel your emotions. I think those are key components to figuring out who you're going to be in this next stage of your life. Because, you are a married man, you're a homeowner, you have a great job. On some days, I'm sure on some days you're like, this sucks, but you're making headway. You're making headway.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes it's like a 2 steps forward, 1 step back thing.
Yeah.
But part of my I know we're trying to wrap up, but part of one of my issues with like social media or like is that it like condenses us into stuff, and I don't like that. Just my idea of like what a human is, how people feel, is always like changing. Yeah.
In social media, like there are a lot of negatives that go with it, understandably negatives. But as as someone that's starting to get a podcast going, talking to people that don't have a.
I'm sorry. I have a whole thing about it.
I'll forgive you. What is your whole thing? I mean, we're never. Who cares about like trying to wrap it up? I want to hear what you got to say. Honestly,
I'll keep. I'm big, but just like it's like a personal thing, just in like my own insecurities and like how I relate to people socially or struggle to. That having a version of me always accessible to people forces me into a place I don't like to be.
Okay.
Of performing and picking and choosing the version of me that I want to put out there, I have a really hard time with. And like, even for a while, I was like, oh, what if I didn't post anything and I just like shared cool stuff I was into? In a way, it's still the same thing. It's like, yeah, it's just really hard for me. And like, a lot of it too is driven by like loneliness at times. Like, I want to reach out to people, and this is an easy way, you know, of just sort of like giving updates and stuff. But even that, to me, like, I don't know, it just gives me like it feels flimsy. It feels like fake to me. Like,
yeah.
So it's a personal thing, but I've always just had a really hard time. Yeah.
I mean, you did that all through high school, and you did it all through college. Where, I mean, some portions of college, but it's like, just I can just imagine me trying to do that for like a week, and I'm just like,
yeah, it's hard.
I'm done, man.
Yeah,
I'm done.
I also like felt because like like all through high school and college, like was on it, you know, pretty much resembled everyone else probably, but I there's a few people, like notable public figures, who just like fall off the face of the earth. And to me, there's like, it's so cool because every time you do see them or hear from them, you're like, their perspective just seems so much more like interesting and like, you know, just like balanced. A lot of times they come back with like long beards.
Yeah,
like,
pretty much.
It's almost as if they've been like out in the wilderness.
Yeah.
And they come back with like new like wisdom or perspective. And I just, more so lately for my life, that model has been like really attractive to me. Of just like, you know, like what were they able to find or see, you know, not being as available all the time.
Is that something you could actually see yourself doing? Or is it something, because I know I can talk myself into like, oh, I could be a football player for the Ducks. It's like, nope. I just dream died.
Yeah. I've like dipped my toe in it from time to time.
Yeah.
But yeah, so maybe completely one day. There's been periods where I didn't have anything, but who knows? I just feel like it frustrates, because like I feel like we make all these excuses for it, but we sound like, when we talk about it sometimes, we sound like people who are addicted
A little bit.
because it's like, oh no, I can just, you know, like, or no, yeah, it's cool, but I just blah, blah, blah.
Replace social media with like alcohol.
Yeah, and that to me is like, it just bothers me. Like even for myself, like I'm included, of like, nothing else in our lives we make as many like excuses and concessions and compromises for than this. Like, and I'm in like working in like advertising stuff too. Like it's not a personal failing. Like, you know, it's like built to be good. It's built to be like
a tool.
Yeah, or just like very addicting and like to keep you on it. But the brain suck feeling that I get from just like being, you know, I'm just like, I know whether I live up to it or not is one thing, but I know that I don't want to be here.
Yeah.
On those things, like, so.
That makes sense. That makes sense, because, you know, it's two sides of the spectrum. It's like, I'm using it to like say Anthony Holton had a podcast episode. Check it out. I don't have money to throw to like advertisers to do these things for me, so I have to do it myself. But it's like in the reverse. It's like, yes, there are very selective viewing of myself is getting pushed out there. It's like, oh, I had a birthday. This is what I did. Oh, I had an anniversary with my partner. This is what we did.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm at this cool thing. This is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
It's not like, hey, I don't want to be social. This is me playing video games. Enjoy.
Totally. Yeah, and to your point, like definitely a tool. Like, and I'm like, especially trying to start a business. Like, of course, I'm never trying to like project onto like other people's choices or how they. I just know like personally, it's a thing that I have a weird relationship with. But yeah,
it makes sense.
Yeah, it totally makes sense for all that stuff you talked about though.
So yeah, so there's again, this was a conversation that like I thought going into every conversation, I'm like, okay, I have a general idea of how it's gonna go with all the research, but then it always just deters in the other direction, which is perfect because it's like I gotta help me figure out how to stay on my toes and just make sure I can pivot left to right if I need to. But I gotta say, man, this has been absolutely phenomenal. But before we wrap up, I do ask 2 questions out of this packet of 170 hypothetical questions.
Oh, wow.
I'm sorry, 160. So I'm going to give you 2. Okay. Take as much time as you need to answer them. So the first one, let me see here. So I usually, on some days I would, some days I'd actually pick this out ahead of time. Sometimes I'm just like, open it up and see what I find. So, yeah. How would you handle a situation at work where you're asked to execute a task that went against your morals?
Oh, wow.
And since you apparently like your job at White and Kennedy, prior to that, you were at State Farm. So
yeah, I was an intern for a little bit. Yeah.
Let's keep the White and Kennedy example out of this one. So let's say at State Farm or any of your previous places. Or if you want to use White and Kennedy, that's fine. How would you handle a task like that?
Hypothetical. Okay.
You could also just say just leave.
Yeah. It's interesting because there's been like stuff that I've worked on that I wasn't asked to do anything that like went against my morals, but it was a conversation around like how do we like do this in the right way?
More constructive.
Huh?
More of like a constructive conversation. It's like, how do we like execute what you looking to get done?
Yeah, or like should we even, like like I worked on some of the work for Kobe after he passed. And it was just very hard, and it was like, does this feel gross to be trying to, do something for a brand like in the midst of this at the same time, like this is a big figure and like you could potentially help in like honoring their legacy. So there's a ton of tension and like a ton of respect for the people I work with because everyone, was very like sensitive about it all and was like, if we, if we don't feel like comfortable, then like, let's not. So I've never been asked like, do this. But we're doing hypothetical, right?
We're hypothetical, but that actually is a good point of like, when these big figures like, again, Kobe, and it's like, I'm sure Nike has to face the same dilemma. It's like, do we just put out a new shoe in Kobe's honor? Or do we just do a giant billboard? And some people, they're like within the building, they're probably just like, we're honoring him. Some people outside are probably gonna be like, oh, they're just kind of exploiting him.
Yeah.
So it's weird. It's just weird. That whole
dynamic. Even people, it like everyone finds their way, but I appreciate there being a chance to at least be like, hey, here's my issue, or all that stuff. So, as far as being like explicitly asked to do something, like
I guess you can use an example of like, what if your manager asked you to fire someone?
Oh, get the like facts of the thing down on paper in front of me, to then be able to look at it and be like, okay, what like, what happened? What's going on? What needs to happen? Why? Are they aware? Like just kind of going through the steps to make sure you're not, just sort of executing an order, but to be like, I understand this, here's what it is. Like, just to be as gentle and like as sensitive with it as possible while, doing the thing you need to do.
Okay. I think if something was asked for me to do against my morals to that extent, like firing someone, I think I'll probably follow the same pathway of you. It's just like get all the facts out, and then that way I feel more. Because if I just blindly fire you, then it's like, why?
Yeah,
I just cut you off from your income for like at least a handful of months until you find something new.
Yeah, the like against the morals part too is if somebody's like, fire this person just because I don't like them. That's like, I don't think I can do that. Like. Yeah,
that's just messed up. I mean, that's like in Horrible Bosses, that movie. Charlie Day and Jason Sudeikis.
Yeah.
Okay, so What do you think? My second hypothetical. What do you think will happen if there were no seasons at all?
Like seasons, like weather?
There's no winter, there's no spring, there's no summer. I guess if it's just like one weather all year long, one weather type all year long.
Oh, wow.
Outside, you don't have to say like flowers will die. Obviously, that's that's a given. But what would happen to you emotionally if it was just one season across the board?
I think I'd be sad. I think I wouldn't appreciate things as much. Mm-hmm. It's weird because like people say like LA doesn't have like seasons.
I was just about to say that.
But also like I visited like rural Alaska one time for like a camp, and they have like months of like in the summer is like almost 24 hours of daylight and stuff like that, or like in the winter like almost 24 hours of darkness, and the effect on people is like pretty stark. So I don't know. I just feel like life would feel flat. Like I think emotionally I'd probably like it at first, and then just sort of be like, what's happening? Like, where are we? What is this?
What's going on right now?
Yeah. Everything would kind of blend together.
Yeah, I mean, granted, there are days where I'm just like, I really enjoy the like, I guess maybe like 100+ degree weather, because we had that a couple summers ago. It's like a stretch of like 4 days of 100+ degree. I was like, this is cool. I think I'm in the wrong state, but it's just like, I think if I just had that warmth and dryness for like endless, I'd probably be like, oh god, not this again. I'm so done.
Yeah, there's a lot. Even the weather lately, like the like back and forthness is jarring.
Yeah. Anthony Holton, you officially have a podcast episode to your name. How do you feel, sir?
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, yeah, it's cool. It's nice to just be able to have conversation. Yeah, and talk. So,
were you worried at all about just getting from camera and microphone? You did say some music is something you mess with. Were you nervous at all about the whole setup and the whole getup?
Maybe a little bit. Like, there's always the thing of like being annoyed by how you sound or how you like come across, but which can give you that paralyzing feeling. But at a certain point, I'm like, I am who I am. So like, whatever. If that's annoying or if I find that hard to like deal with, then that's like a deeper thing for me. But no, this is cool. Thank you so much. Like, I appreciate having the chance.
Yeah, taking as someone that's heard his voice over and over and over again, you definitely get used to it. It'd be like, oh, I don't like the way I said the word "and."
Right.
No.
Or even like the little things you do when someone else is talking, of like or like the little things you're like, stop doing that.
Yeah, I say a lot. And if someone says like something very deep, I'm like, yeah. I'm like, oh my god, stop.
Yeah.
Again, thank you, man. I know this is our longest conversation we've ever had, which is like gonna be the opening door to more longer conversations.
Yeah, totally.
So
it was strange that from being in the same class or on the same team, the longest conversation happens with like all this stuff around, like but
in our 30s.
Yeah. Life's weird like that though. Like, and anyway, I never try to wrap up.
No. But
like in all these like movies and stuff around like time travel or weird things, we wonder what it's like. But like over the course of a life, if you were to look at all the kind of main moments, weird stuff like that happens all the time.
Yes.
Like, and it's just such is the way. Like it is what it is.
There you go, man. I believe you're gonna go hit some golf clubs, hit some balls.
I'm gonna try to. I'm trying to get out there. I'm trying to get my old man on.
Okay. Well, thank you, man. This has been awesome.
Yeah. Thank you, bro.
Giant thank you to the guests for coming on and telling their story, and giant thank you to you for sticking around until the end of the episode. If you like what you heard or watched and would like more from Keoni Chats, the show can be found on all podcast platforms and YouTube. So like and subscribe there to get notified when new episodes are released. Or if you would like to follow the show on social media and get your notifications that way, you could do so by following KC Media 13 on Instagram and Twitter, and Conlu K Media on Facebook. So if you'd like to become a guest, you can email me at kcmedia13@yahoo.com. Tell me your story. I'd love to talk with you and love to get you on the show. So until the next episode, everyone, please take care.